The More Movement Crew.
Welcome to the More Movement Crew podcast. I'm your host, Kenina Porter, and this is episode 5. So in this episode, I decided not to do a video because I wanted people to really listen to what I'm saying instead of watching a video. And now I don't have to do hair and makeup. So it worked out. It was convenient. And I thought, let's just switch it up on them a little bit. So I'm just going to do an audio podcast this episode. But welcome back. I hope that you enjoyed last episode because I did a vlog where we went to Canada, Toronto, and Rochester, and we had a blast, and we just were on a huge adventure. And so it was really cool. If you haven't checked it out, please check it out. And make sure you subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe, share, all of that. So today's episode, I'm just going to get right into it. This episode was just I was just kind of kicking through ideas of what I wanted to do this week, since last week was like high energy. And this week is kind of like low energy, to be honest. Hadn't been feeling 110% this week. Just trying to get over, the weather and stuff like that. The weather in Kentucky is just crazy. So I thought, what is pressing? What do I feel like I should say? What is my message for this week? And so, I'm scrolling on Facebook and I'm just looking at people's posts and some of the things that people are doing. And, God was just revealing to me that society is constantly pushing this message of being busy. It wants us to be busy. It wants us to constantly be pressed for time and trying to schedule things and book things and constantly saying, oh, I'm booked, I'm busy, I'm not available, I'm this, I'm that. So why is it that we do that? It just made me think about it. And I do it. I must be all the way transparent. I'm so busy. I got so much going on. I'm so overwhelmed. I got a lot going on. I say those things. And I'm like, so God was really, really checking me on a lot of that, and I had posted a post on Facebook that was saying, God was like, sit down, you're doing too much. Like, you're doing way too much. Sit down, drink your water, and take several seats. So that's why this episode is called Take Several Seats, because there are times when we need to sit down and reflect and think about what it is that we're doing and what, most importantly, our motive is for doing it. And so that was what he had to get me on. And that's what he's still working with me on. So this episode is going to be real transparent and really honest, and kind of talk about like how our society pushes that and how we take it and we like run with it. And so I hear all the time, Facebook, Instagram, people posting things about the hustle, about the grind, about making moves, about securing the bag. Those are just a few sayings like money don't sleep. I'll get money when I die. I'll get sleep when I die. Work hard, play hard, which is one I use. I'm not even going to lie. Money over everything. And so those are a couple. There's probably like 1,000 more sayings that we use about hustling, making moves. And it's great to be working to build something. I am not saying that it is not great to be working to build something great, to be working to change your community, to work to change lives, to help people. All of that is great, right? And I continue the work, continue to push against it, because for me, in the organization that I work with, our ultimate goal is to change systems that are set up to discourage people of color, systems that are set up to create barriers for people of color. And so I am all about that work. I'm all about that busy work, right? But in all of it, no matter what work you're doing, there needs to be a time of rest and self-care and reflection. Rest, self-care, and reflection. RSR. I just made that up. So I I just think it's like super, super important for me to talk about this because that is what society is doing. And I work with students and I work with young people and I see it all the time where they're starting to think, okay, I need to start having my own company. I need to start building an empire. I need to start being a YouTube influencer, social media influencer. So now they're starting to build like, I can't just go and get one job. I got to go do like 17 things. Um, and so we just kind of got to talk about that. We got to talk about how society is shaping us to be busy. And I'll play a clip at the end of this from a news article that kind of did some research on like how we're busy and why we're busy and what does that come from? Where does it come from? So I'll play that at the end of this episode. But so let's talk about just self-care. Self-care is so, so important. For those of you who have been following me, know my story. I was diagnosed with lupus and I discovered it while being a recruiter for the university. I got sick and I was traveling on a travel visit and I started to not feel well. And so in the midst of all of my busyness, I kind of was forced to physically sit down. And so when that happened, I had no choice but to reflect. And so now I know when God is telling me I need to sit down and I need to chill. So through all of that, that is what I always carry. And so self-care can look like however you need it to look like. It can just be a moment of like 30 minutes of just quiet and music or instrumental music or whatever it is that you need to do to practice self-care. That 30 minutes to yourself is super, super important. It's 30 minutes to eat without doing work while you're eating. It's 30 minutes to not have to listen to the kids or the husband or whoever for 30 minutes. It's, prayer. It's meditation. It's yoga. It's taking a walk. It's doing 30 minutes or an hour of something that you love, building, creating, making things, researching, reading. But self-care has to take place no matter who you are. And it's important that you think about that. And it's important that you're constantly evaluating your motives and your reason for why you're doing it. Because I think the one thing that is super, super harmful is that when you're building and you're building and you're building and you get to this place where you've built this platform and you look at yourself and you're like, I'm not even the person that I want it to be. Like I've made it all about this money. I've made it all about this. And I've strayed so far away from my values, from my morals. Now everything I do is revolved around money. I don't have any time for my family. I don't have any time for a relationship. All I do is work, work, work. And this is me talking to myself. So for me, I prided myself, and I do pride myself on working hard and just exceeding every goal that I set for myself. I've worked myself so much that I didn't make time for a relationship. I blocked that part of my life out, and I was like, well, if it happens, it happens. But, in the meantime, I'm going to keep on going. I can't plan for that. I can plan for everything else. And I've said that. And I know I have. And so it's evident. It's evident in my life that all these other areas are thriving, but that area is weak. And so I have to change that. I have to sit down. I have to reflect on what I need to do differently to change that particular area in my life if I want that area to grow. And so, I've reached this level of being at the status where I am debt free, right? I've gotten, I've gotten some degrees and I'm doing well. But like I've gotten to this place and I'm like, man, I really didn't work on developing a relationship. And I need to do that. I've done everything. I help people. I support people. I put everybody before my own needs sometimes. And I haven't really reflected on that. And so that's a part of self-care, is looking at and thinking about what you need as a person. Like, what do I need? Because a lot of times we're so, so busy. And this is women, Black women, so, so, so busy of taking care of everyone else, performing miracles, right? Making things happen out of nothing happen, something out of nothing happen all the time. We're making a way out of no way, in every situation. And we don't take the time to think about what it is that we need, We were doing an exercise with my young girls, and with Elevate, and we were talking about relationships as a whole and what do you need in a relationship. And we were having the girls write that down, and I did mine, and I was like, wow, like I never stopped to think about what it is that I needed in a relationship to feel valued. And that's a part of self-care, like stopping and taking the time to do that. And I think that we don't do that because to sit down and to reflect can be painful, right? We think about what hurts us, what things that haunt us. Sometimes people don't want to be alone with their thoughts. They don't want to be alone with their past or their pain or their motives, right? And as believers, a lot of times we are busy because sometimes we don't want to hear what God has to say. Let's be all the way honest. We don't want to hear what God has to say because there are times when God will say, that's an idol. You put your relationship before me. You put your job before me. You put this money before me. You put your company before me. You need to set that down. And sometimes we don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear him saying, whoa, slow down, whoa, stop, whoa, don't do this, whoa, don't do that. Because oftentimes when we do have that alone time with God, it is not always going to be something we want to hear. Let's be all the way honest. If you have a relationship with God and an active relationship with him, he's not always telling you what you want to hear. And that is the amazing part about having a relationship with God, because he always keeps you in check for your own protection. And so that's the thing about self-care. I just want to talk about that. And so why do we do it? Like, why do we pride ourselves with being busy? At the end of this episode, we are going to have this clip that talks about how Americans are so busy. But I think for us, it's a validation thing. The article talks about how it's like a class thing, that the busier we are, the more people attribute us to being successful and having money. So it's a validation thing. It makes us seem important. It's almost like developing like this God complex where I'm important, I'm busy, you'll have to be scheduled in, you'll have to be booked in. And so it's a sense of pride for us. And a lot of people's work ethic is a sense of pride for them, to be able to be known for the hard work that you do. It makes us feel great. And sometimes that's how we were raised, to have a strong work ethic. I come from a family who definitely pride themselves in working hard, right? Especially the men, working and taking care of your family is important. So being busy, right, doing a good job, sometimes is validation for us. It makes us feel important when sometimes we don't feel as important, right? And so, that's the second thing I wanted to talk about is the validation. So we have to really think about, am I busy because this is making me feel important? When ultimately you are important because God says you're important. No matter what work you do, you're important, right? No matter what you do, you're important because he says that you are. And so we have to get that first. I am who I am because God has created me to be this way. And all of the things that I do are just an extension of the greatness that God has made me. So that's kind of what I wanted to share, that second point. And then let's just talk about this whole idea of how important quietness is, like the stillness of it. There's a scripture that says, be still and know that I am God. And I think that it's important that we take the time to be still, right? And not say anything. When I was in the hospital for 21 days, I could not speak, right? I couldn't say a word. I could just write. That's all I could do is write what I wanted, write what I wanted to say. And that was it. And that quietness was so important because it gave me the opportunity to listen. Sometimes we just listen to respond and not listen to understand. And we have to just be quiet sometimes. I think one of my biggest pet peeves were people who just talked incessantly. People that just talk all the time, just always talking. Like, it used to it used to irritate me. Even in high school, I'm just like, why don't you just be quiet? Like, why do you talk so much? And so now I'm finding myself being like one of those people that talk a lot. And so, but just being quiet, being still, and listening. There's so much power in quietness. And so try it. If your life is chaotic and there's always noise and there's always something going on, try to just have some moment of quiet. If you got to sit in your car, to have it, because it's so important and it's so powerful to have that quietness. And then the next thing I want to talk about is resetting. The idea of resetting. We work and we work and we work, and there are like seasons to our work, and there are seasons obviously to the year, and the beginning of the year is usually when people reset. But it's really, really important for us to constantly be revisiting our goals and our objectives. And oftentimes it's necessary for us to reset for repositioning, because the direction that you originally thought you were supposed to go, maybe that's not working out. So you've got to reset. You've got to refresh yourself so that you can know what your actual strategy is. You got to have a plan. I tell young people that every day in the schools, whatever you choose to do when you leave here, you got to have a plan. You can't just be living off the seat of your pants 24/7. You got to have a plan. And so when we reset, we allow ourselves to have a plan, to have some plan of action to put into place, and we're not just flying by the seat of our pants. Now, for those of you who are like me, who are type A and who want to try and plan everything out, that's not always the healthiest. We have to learn how to be flexible in some way. And so that's what I'm having to be balanced on, is the flexibility of it and not try to plan everything. But that is why it's so important for us to have this rest and this self-care, because then you can come to terms with, okay, am I over planning? Do I need to go with the flow on this one? So it's like you're having a counseling session, right, with yourself, and I have one with God, and he kind of helps me to stay on this path. So I think it's so important for you to reset, to be able to reset, and to just know that resetting can take place at any time. Like, it's not, you can't wait once a year or once a month to reset. You can reset whenever you're feeling like you're overwhelmed and you have anxiety. Reprioritize, sit down and say, okay, I'm doing too much. This doesn't have to get done today. This doesn't have to get done today. This can wait. This is not important. This is extra. And start to get some stuff off that list and figure out what's most important. And so that right there is gold. That right there is the best advice that I can give myself and others, is to just look at that to-do list and say what absolutely can wait. And if everything has to wait, then you need to do that. You need to make everything wait. And so the last part I want to just quickly talk about is there are seasons of rest. And I believe that God is putting me in a season of rest. And when I say season of rest, that doesn't mean I just like sleep in, chill, do what I want, watch movies all day. No. But the season of rest is a time for me to educate myself. So I want to take my company to another level. So now I got to do research. I got to put the time in. I got to put the work in. I may have to stay off of Facebook for the purpose of scrolling and get on Facebook for the purpose of business only and log out, because I cannot be distracted by all of the busyness of other people. And so a season of rest is just that. Maybe I need to not cut on the TV, but start reading the 5 books that I've started that I keep saying I'm going to finish and I don't finish. So I literally have all of these books I want to read, all these books I've started reading, and I haven't gotten to finish any of them. So during the season of rest, then that's what I can start doing, is reading these books. And so just taking the time to dig deeper into establishing relationships with people and doing the research and not being running over here, trying to go to every event. Now for me, and this is like, I try to show up to a lot of different places and spaces, and it was exhausting. I felt like it was productive. I felt like I met people. I got my name out there, but I just didn't feel like it was moving me towards what I was supposed to be doing. And so now this year, I just have to reassess. I spent money doing some events I probably shouldn't have attended. And so this year, I'm just not trying to be out in the streets, just at events, just because. Because let's be honest, in this city of Louisville, people have events 24/7 for everything. And sometimes the events are worth going to, sometimes they're not worth going to. And so I'm just going to be really choosy. Is that the word? Choosy? I don't think that's a word. I'm just going to choose wisely. What events that I attend this year? I'm kind of exhausted. You get invites to events, and I'm just like, do I really, really have the energy to go and to do that right now? So I just got to be honest. I'm being honest. I'm being transparent. I'm kind of event tapped out at this point. So I think I'm going to go into my season of rest. I'm going to go into my lab and start developing content, because I have to think about what ultimately do I love. And I love creating. I love telling stories. I love sharing stories. I love visually being able to see a story come together. That's what I love. And so I love being in the lab. I love having on my headphones and being in front of my laptop editing for hours. That's what I want to do. And I love people seeing what I've created. And so I just want to move towards that. I want to move to creatively being able to do that. I think at heart I am an introvert that people think is an extrovert, but I really am more of an introvert. I really like having my own space. It's like if I am an extrovert, it's for like an hour or two and I'm tapped out. So I'm working on that, but I'm working on it. And I'm just being honest with how I feel right now in this season of rest. And so this episode was just a really transparent episode about being busy and giving off the impression that we're so busy. Social media helps us to create this false narrative that we're just so busy and life is just so fabulous. And life can be fabulous and life is great. But sometimes we need to rest. Sometimes we need to take several seats. And so that's what this episode is about. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. I hope that it has blessed you. I will post the link to the article that I'm talking about below. But also remember kind of what I've talked about. Remember to be still and to know that God has everything in control, that He is God. And so when we make Him a priority in our life, in our business, in our relationships, then He takes care of those things. And we don't need to be running around, right? There are moments when He's like, chill, don't do anything, relax, and those moments are gold. So there's also a scripture that talks about rising early and staying up late in vain, to do all of these things that don't have value, toiling for food to eat. I mean, it's constantly trying to find a way. And when the motive is not right, when you're doing it for personal gain or recognition or whatever it is, it's empty. And it says, for He who grants sleep to those He loves. And so God gives us the peace because He loves us. And if you don't have that, if you're moving around, you're stressed, listen to some of the things I said, listen to some of the tips that I gave in this episode, because it will surely give you life. So thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate those who have subscribed. I appreciate those who actively listen to my episodes every week. I'm grateful. I'm just really, really grateful. And so thank you for taking this journey with me this year and watching the vlogs and watching the episodes. And so next week we have an interview. So I look forward to that interview. And we got a lot of great things coming this year. I'm really, really, really excited because I'm taking the time to rest. So I appreciate everything. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to subscribe. And until next time, be blessed.
We know you're busy. So busy. Crazy busy. These days, busyness has become a status symbol. Researchers at Columbia and Harvard found that about 12% of humble brags by celebrities on Twitter were about being busy. Then they created a fictional Facebook user. When she posted about working nonstop, people thought she had higher status and more money than if she posted about her leisure time. The researchers also found that people were even impressed by products aimed at busy people, like a grocery delivery service or a Bluetooth headset. And while we complain or humble brag about having too much to do, we might be doing it on purpose. Previous research at the University of Chicago found that people actually prefer being busy. And the researchers found that people wanted to keep busy even if it actually hurt their productivity. For example, they might respond to non-urgent email instead of finishing a big project. They even came up with a term for it, idleness aversion. But that may be an American phenomenon. The researchers at Harvard and Columbia tried similar research with Italians, and the results flipped. Italians considered people with more leisure time to have higher status than those who were working all the time. So next time you're feeling crazy busy, think about whether whatever you're busy doing is really accomplishing your goals. And if all else fails, you could always move to Italy.